What's up, guys? So today we're talking about what all big natural lifters have in common. But first, we're going to talk about what they don't have in common, because honestly, that is just as useful. First, volume. You do have some guys who take a more low volume, one set to failure or just a few sets to failure or near failure kind of thing. Then you have more moderate volume guys. Then you do have moderate to high volume, and then super high volume kind of guys. There's a whole spectrum of volumes that you can be successful with. A lot of this is based on your own individual psychology, how hard you want to push each set, how long you want to be in the gym. There are a lot of variables, but volume is very, very individual. So you can go high, you can go low, you can go somewhere in the middle. It's sort of up to you. Next, frequency. Again, this one has quite a bit of wiggle room. High frequency has been in vogue the past few years. Now bro split is sort of back. And honestly, they can all work. Anywhere from once per week frequency to 2 to 3, up to 4 or 5, or maybe even 6 times per week frequency for some people. Again, it's very individual, and you're going to need to experiment and find what works for you. As a general recommendation, I would say around twice per week is a good starting point for advanced to intermediates. Beginners, pretty much anything will work.
That's a good thing.
Next, intensity or rep range. So basically how heavy you are going. Now again, this has quite a bit of wiggle room. Some people tend to prefer higher reps with lighter weights. Then you have more moderate guys, and then you have guys who prefer going heavy, sets of 6, sets of 5, sets of 4, stuff like that. More of a power building approach. It all can work. Whether you do sets of 3, sets of 10, sets of 15, sets of 30, all can cause hypertrophy. Next, exercise selection. You can gain muscle on a huge variety of exercises. And is it going to vary that much in terms of your results? Maybe. But it's a lot of self-experimentation. Just looking around, you see some guys who only do squats and get very big legs. Other guys like the leg press. Other guys like sissy squats. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with doing unconventional exercises or only dumbbells or only barbells or only machines or only bands. Okay, maybe bands kind of suck, but there are a lot of ways to build muscle, so don't get dogmatic about your exercise selection. Next, isolation versus compounds. Again, this is pretty individual, and a lot of it is just personal preference. If you don't mind spending a little bit more time in the gym and doing more isolations, there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with sticking to mostly compound movements. There are natural bodybuilders who develop very, very impressive physiques without doing much in terms of isolation work. Now, the stuff that is non-negotiable. The first, progressive overload.
I am once again asking
for you to add weight to the bar. Trying to get better over time. This could be adding weight to the bar. I did a full tier list. I'll link it up there. But basically just trying to be better in some way every time you get to the gym. If you're lifting the same weights, the same sets, the same reps, the same everything, in 2 years, you're going to look pretty much exactly the same. Next, effort or proximity to failure, which are very, very similar. If you're always keeping 6, 7, 8 reps in the tank, you're probably not going to grow very well as a natural. If you're enhanced, I think you have a little bit more wiggle room just because you're going to be getting that stimulus anyway. But if you're natural, probably not going to fly. I would say isolation work you can take closer to failure, as well as safer compounds. Stuff like squats, bench, deadlifts, perhaps keep a few reps in the tank. 2, 3, 4, maybe 1, just depending on where you are in the training cycle, etc., etc. But you have to be training hard. If your reps are not slowing at all, as a natural, you probably won't grow. If your working sets look like warm-ups, you're probably not going to grow. Unless you're some kind of genetic freak or on steroids or something like that, it's probably just not going to happen. Next, consistency and time. This is not a 1-year kind of deal, okay? I have some people ask me sometimes via DM or sometimes even a potential client, like, what can I do in a year? Like, that's their sort of end goal. That's probably not enough to develop an impressive physique. Unless you're a very special case, a genetic freak, not going to happen. You're probably not going to look that great until year 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even later. This shit takes time, and you need to be consistent during that time. There's a lot of people who have trained for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or even 20 years. They don't look that impressive because they took a few months off here and then a few months off here, and so they're always playing catch up, trying to get back to where they were. Next, technique. Now, technique is going to look a little bit different for every single person, especially on some lifts that have more variability. For example, like a squat, there are dozens of variables when it comes to squatting, and so it might take some time to find out your best squat, which is going to look a little bit different from everyone else. But still, most big natural lifters, technique is always a focus. They are always locked in and focused either on the muscles that they're working or on just the movement pattern in general. It is very, very important. Bad technique not only puts you at risk for injury, it makes the movement worse. So it's really the worst of both worlds. Worse results and risk of injury. Next, injury. Now, this is not inevitable. I think some people can go their whole lifting career with zero injuries, zero issues whatsoever. But if you took 100 very, very impressive natural lifters, guys who are 24, 25 FMI, have legit approached the natty limit, like there is no natty limit, but they're very, very close and gains have slowed down and they've been training 10 or 15 years, I would say most of them have been injured at some point during that time. It's not a goal by any means, but it's highly likely that it will happen. And this is not something you should aspire to.
What the hell are you doing?
It's not like, oh, year 3, this is the year where I snap my shit up, so I learned the lesson of bracing. No, okay? It's just something that might happen and you need to be mentally prepared for. They also keep learning and they have a variety of good sources that they trust that they get information from. Then they apply that information to themselves and they experiment and they see if it actually works. If it doesn't, maybe they toss it to the side and revisit it later, and if it keeps not working, maybe they delete it entirely, permanently. But they have a constant source of ideas to try in their training to try to keep optimizing things. They're not dogmatic in their approach, and they're always trying new things to try to optimize this process. They're also usually pretty strong. I'm not particularly strong, but usually you can tell roughly how strong someone is. Yes, there are outliers on either side, but generally speaking, the biggest people in the gym are the strongest people in the gym. And the smallest people in the gym are the weakest people in the gym. There's a pretty decent correlation there. Not 100%, but pretty good. And for most naturals, just trying to get stronger on the basic movements, or whatever movements you try, that is the best way to build muscle. Finally, you gotta love it. It's unavoidable. If you don't enjoy the process, you're not gonna stick with it. So goals are fine. It's fine taking a results-oriented approach, but you gotta focus on the process. You gotta learn to love it, or you're not gonna stay the course. It's too long of a road, too difficult of a road, especially if you wanna max out your physique, to be half-assing it. And I've never met someone who's actually natural with an impressive physique who's like, about training. Like, they're just not interested in the specifics of it. Like, they don't ever want to talk about training. They're just like, yeah, I kind of hate training, but I like the results. No. Okay, I've never seen that. Maybe if someone's a professional athlete or some shit like that, but the vast majority of people in the gym who look very impressive and they're natural, they have learned to love the process. All right, that's all for this video. Like, subscribe, share, grab my book if you want more practical, useful, pragmatic information about how to optimize your progress and results and all that good stuff.
That's a good thing.
It's up there, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.